Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, I am so glad that I have a book called the Bible. Jesus said, "Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth." We need a foundation of truth. In the book of Psalms earlier, in Psalms 11, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The foundation of any culture, any society, any family, any relationship with any person that is going to be stable and good and have security and peace in it has to be built on the foundation of truth, of truth. What is truth? Pilate asked the question. My friend, Jesus said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." His word is truth. Now, as we look at Psalm 105, this is a chapter that reminds the nation of Israel of the truth of their heritage, of the truth of a God, the God of heaven, who makes his covenant promises and keeps them. Matter of fact, the chapter ends, Psalm 105 ends, and it says this, that in verse 42, "For he remembered his holy promise." God remembers his promise that he has made to his people. And so what we have in the book of Psalm 105, the chapter 105, is basically three sections that deal with people that God chose, that God ordained to lead his people. The first group, of course, was the patriarchs, and you see this in the first 15 verses. You see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and even have the name Joseph mentioned. But now in verse 16, it primarily speaks of Joseph and how God used this story of Joseph, a story that was dear to the hearts of the Jewish people, that God uses to encourage them in tough and dark and difficult times. That God prepares, he has a person, no matter how bad it gets, he has someone that he's going to use. And so the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, their stories, the book of Genesis. Matter of fact, I've always said, if you want to remember the Bible, you want to know the Bible, learn the people of the Bible. God loves people. God loves the world, and not just the creation of the world, but the people in the world. That's who he loves. That's who he's speaking of. And he has given us people to show us his way, who he is. And even today in our lives, there's people around us that radiate the joy and the love and the presence and the marvelous greatness of God as they trust him and live for him, and they are faithful. Well, that's what Psalm 105 is about. And today we're in the middle verses, starting in verse 16, and it says this: "Moreover, he called for a famine in the land. He destroyed all the provision of bread. He sent a man before them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. They hurt his feet with fetters. He was laid in irons until the time that his word came to pass. The word of the Lord tested him. The king sent and released him. The rulers of the people let him go free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his possessions, to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his elders wisdom. Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob dwelt in the land of Ham. He increased his people greatly. He made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their hearts to hate his people, to deal craftily with his servants." And so God is going through the history of Israel and showing again the people how he provided not only provisions for them, he provided a man, a person, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. He provided Joseph. And you know the story of his dreams, how he believed one day his brothers would bow to him, and he told them the dream, and they didn't like it, and they sold him into slavery. They hurt his feet with fetters. He was sent to Egypt, and there Potiphar's wife lied against him. He ends up in prison, and he is again suffering greatly. And my friend, that's God's plan, almost in a sense, that before we can be a leader, we have to learn to suffer. We have to learn to be a servant. And God has a way of doing that over and again. That's in his economy of preparing people that will do awesome things for him. And maybe that's what God's doing in your life today. And you can trust him to take care of you. the story of Joseph. Go back, read the book of Genesis. This chapter will come alive if you do that. Psalm 105. And God does keep his promise. He'll keep his promise to you today through Jesus Christ. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.